Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kama Speaks. Today, I have a special guest. Her name is Carlenia Springer, and I'm really excited to have her on my show. She's actually bringing something different that I've never heard of, and you're going to be able to experience the same thing I get to experience with her. Thank you so much for being on my show. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read your bio so people can know just a little bit about you. Okay. Carlenia was born in Washington, D.C. with roots in Trinidad, West Indies. Carlena's actions speak to transformation being the work of her heart. She's a visionary, spiritual teacher, coach, transformational speaker, author, Reiki Master, and we'll talk about that, philanthropist, and a student of consciousness. She travels empowering and teaching students and clients how to use their mind to create a quantum shift in their business and personal lives. She's the founder of Celestial Dawn Enterprises. Celestial Dawn offers classes, trainings, and programs designed to support students in aligning with Soul's agenda and becoming conscious creators. And please forgive me while I am stumbling and sounding like I'm all over the place. I'm trying to rush, but please forgive me with your bio. But thank you so much again for being on the show. And I want to welcome you. And why don't you tell the audience just a little bit more in depth about yourself?
Well, you know, you said it there in my bio, and at the base of all of that, I'm just really passionate about serving others. And I have that weekly call because, you know, if you tell me that you have a dream or a vision, I always say it's like the God in me literally locks arms with God in you, and it's done. Like no matter what your resistance is, if you tell me like this is what you want, I'm always calling you, pushing you, pulling you, showing you pictures of where you should be, where you said you wanted to be. And I'm just, that's the work of my heart.
Well, what made you get into helping people? What was there like a turning point in your life that said, you know what, it's time for me to help serve others?
You know what, it's really been my whole life, and I have to go back many, many years, but in my 20s, I wasn't happy, and I was just searching. I really and truly was searching for happiness and a way to transform my own life. And it took me through a lot of spiritual teachers and training. I understood that there was something called universal law. And if we came into alignment with universal law, our lives would work. And I remember looking and searching all over the internet and finding out so much information. And I couldn't find these universal laws. And I just wanted someone to teach it to me. And I can remember being at work and thinking I have to do a course, I need to find a school. And that day I walked into the CVS and Iyanla Vanzant was on the front cover of Essence magazine. And in the back, she was inviting people to her New Year's Eve celebration. And so I said I had to go, but I didn't have the $200 for the ticket. So I called, I had never done it, but I called and I volunteered my time. And actually, I believe it was her son-in-law. He said, you know what, we have all the volunteers we need, but since you offered, you can come as my guest.
Wow.
So I went, and I actually was going out later that night, so I couldn't stay the entire time, but I stayed long enough to hear that she was opening her school, Inner Visions Institute for Spiritual Development. And so that started my journey, and I spent 2 years there in a coaching program, and it's all in my bio, but I spent another 2 years in Ritual Healing Village, and I spent time with Ascend Spiritual Flight Academy. And again, I was just trying to transform my own life. I think it was just always in me to help people, but I just was not clear about my vision. And so my journey has been a long one, but along the way, I did learn that whenever I served others, I was blessed. And oftentimes, you know, we serve other people, and there is a blessing for us. I often think that we are blessed more than the ones that we're actually serving, the fulfillment and everything that we get from that. And my mentor, Reverend Israel Malik Esters, who I spent 4 years with, I can remember my whole life, well, growing up, I used to go to church, and they always talk about sowing and tithing, and I never understood that. But I remember them teaching us about tithing. And one day I was looking at a TV program, and I don't remember who the preachers were on there, but they were talking about tithing $1,000, just taking your tithe to a completely different level. Mm-hmm. And that was a Sunday, and Reverend Israel usually didn't like to talk to people after church. That was just his time to rest. Mm-hmm. And I remember hearing that, and I actually had an extra $1,000, and I said, you know what, let me sow this. I need something to open in my life. I didn't know what that was going to look like. But 2 or 3 hours later, he called me and he said, I was washing dishes and Spirit said, call Carlenia. And I said, really? And I laughed. I said, well, I didn't tell you, but I just sold $1,000. He's like, oh, okay. So I'm going to personally mentor you. He became my personal mentor. And from that point on, my life began to change in ways that I could only describe as miraculous. But what he taught me was how to use my mind, how to master my emotions, how to think, and how to create in spite of whatever circumstances appeared to be surrounding me or overwhelming me. So it was very powerful, and that's what I help people do today.
Wow, that's awesome. You know what, you mentioned something that I want to kind of go back and talk about. You talked about opportunity, the opportunity that you were given or the opportunity that you were given. Today, I was talking to some young people, and they were talking about, we were talking about entrepreneurship. And I focused today on opportunity. I told them, take the opportunity that's given. So you were saying how you wanted to go to this particular event. And what did you do? You offered yourself and you said, you know what can I do in order for me to get there? I want to be there. I'll help in any capacity. What would you tell somebody that may have the same thing, but maybe that won't work? Maybe they can't serve. But what would you tell them to tell my mind? What would you say to them about going after their dreams? Because in my talk show, I talk about pursuing your passion. You seen an opportunity, you took it. What is something that you would tell somebody to do in the same situation if they don't have the $200 or not even the $50 that they need to go somewhere that they know is going to help them? What are some things that you can offer them to help them possibly achieve that goal? Well, I hope I'm not too confusing.
Yeah, no. Look, I was hungry to change my life, right? And when you're hungry, ideas will come to you that normally you probably wouldn't do in your regular state of mind, right? But I have a program that is about to be released called Spirit Speaks. Are you listening? Because as a child, I was very intuitive, but I had no frame of reference for it. And back in 2005, I actually took a trip to Brazil and Peru, and it was the most amazing trip of my life, 10 days of pure synchronicity. But when I say I went by myself, I did not make any reservations or anything because I was so overwhelmed by the cost, the $3,000 ticket that I had to pay for that. I didn't even know how I was going to do it, but it was a challenge and a risk. And I risked everything to go. Well, when I got off the plane, I began to notice that hymns from my childhood were playing over and over in my head. And I hadn't been to church in a really long time, so it's not like I was listening to this. And after like the third time, it caught my attention. And what I noticed was that every hymn that I was hearing actually was talking about where I had been and what happened next, or where I was and what was coming. And this happened for 10 days straight. The only time it shut down completely was the one time I thought I didn't have enough money. And I got scared. And instead of staying in a hotel, a hostel, I stayed in the airport and spent a very uncomfortable night there. And the next day, when I was too tired to fight that anymore, somebody came to give me a tour. And they gave me a tour of this huge site that was being excavated in Lima. And then they insisted on taking me to the tourist section of the city so that I would stay in a hotel until my plane left 11 o'clock that night. Well, that meant I could have stayed in a hotel the night before, but I was in so much fear. And what I saw was the only time it shut down was when I got scared. So that was in 2005, and this is 2015. So you can tell it's been a journey because
Yes.
I couldn't understand. I could not speak Portuguese, and I couldn't even remember to say hola, to say hello in Spanish.
Wow.
So people showed up every step of the way to serve me. And I really tried to wrap my mind around that, and I couldn't. And it literally is just this year that everything is coming together. So that program that I teach, Spirit Speaks, Are You Listening, is teaching people how to listen, how to still the noise in their mind and listen to that still small voice. Because what I found is that it's always guiding, it's always leading. And whenever I look to the outside circumstances and try to make a decision, oftentimes it appears to be right, but I run up against walls.
Wow.
And whenever I get quiet enough and still enough that I can hear and I can discern, then things open up in ways that I could only call miraculous. And so you asked me, what would I tell someone? I really tell them to get still because your soul has an agenda that your intellect is struggling to understand. And our intellect is what takes us about this reality, right? But we're not our body. Our intellect is to direct our body here, take you from work to home and wherever else you have to go. But soul has the design, it has the blueprint. That's the part of you that's connected to God, that's eternal, that never dies, but that has your purpose. It knows what your purpose is. And when you get still enough, you can hear that the guidance. And when you're told to move left, move right, talk to this person, do this, do that, you understand that you're not walking blind. And literally whole new worlds begin to open up. And so I would tell them to get still. And if you didn't have the money, even if you couldn't serve, like if I couldn't serve Iyanla's people, right? I wasn't able to. He just let me come. But I really believe that my willingness to serve. So we can always serve people right in our space. Mm-hmm. I think it was last week, I found myself low on money, low on funds. And I said, you know what? I don't have money to sow, but I know how valuable my time is. I began to call certain friends and say, I'll sow my time. So I'll give you 2 days of my time. Now for me, that's huge. And I know you're busy, so you can imagine, right? But I've had so much experience with things opening up for me. And I was nominated for an honorary doctorate degree, and I was supposed to be graduating May 31st. And I didn't understand why it appeared that the money wasn't there to show up and to travel and all of that. But I volunteered my time to one of my friends, and she asked me to help her pass out flyers to people for a little kids workshop that she had. What I didn't know was that I would have a divine appointment with a young lady, 44 years old, who's been on drugs from the time she was 14 years old. Wow. And when my daughter and I were passing out flyers, she was on a porch with her stepmom or her godmother and 2 other ladies. And she just began to tell me about her kids and how intuitive they are and how they come to her. And I didn't know she had a drug addiction problem at that time, but how they would come to her at just different times and they would start to bless her and start to pray for her. Mm-hmm. And then she began to cry and she said, my 13-year-old son, he left and he was my best friend and I didn't even know where he was. My 26-year-old daughter called me and he's with her, but I don't know why she would do that because all types of people come through her house and he's such a bright boy. Why would she do that? She broke down crying and I gave her my number and I was really busy trying to get my programs out. So I was going to call her like 2 days later. She called me first and I talked to her we probably talked for almost 3 hours. Wow. And she said, yes. And I said, I was hungry for change. See, what I didn't know at the time was that if I had been graduating, I would have never come across this lady. But the night before, she said she had cried out to God, and she's like, you have to help me. I can't go another day. I can't continue to live like this. Something has to break. Something has to open up. And she has prophetic dreams. Her dad died 2 years ago, but he was a prophet. And when he was dying, he said, this gift that I have, I pray that you get double the blessing. So she had a rough life. She had spent some time in prison, and she told me, she said, when I was there was a young girl that came in, and I was told, like Spirit told me to tell her she'll be here for a day and a half. And so I was hesitant to tell her. I didn't want her to think I was crazy. And she said, but I got up the courage and I told her. And the next day they called her. She said, but I also told her that she was supposed to tell her mom, who was strung out on crack, to go see my dad. She said, my dad, so she told me her dad died 2 years ago. And the lady who was strung out on crack is now the pastor of her dad's church.
Wow.
Yes. I met her Memorial Day weekend. I believe it was that Saturday, that Saturday I probably met her. And her son, her son was gone. That Friday, she had her son back in her house. And she's just thanking me. She said, there's certain things that I just never understood, and you just helped me to see things in a different light. And what I did was teach her. I always tell people, your soul, you're not this body, and you're not your mind, because oftentimes our thoughts are out of control. And they color how we see life, how we see everything. So it could be a beautiful day outside, and you wake up and you see a wonderful day. I wake up and I can probably see only darkness, depending on what's going on in my mind. And as I began to explain things to her, and explain that you're not your body and you're not your mind, and you actually have the ability to direct your mind. Within it's been like 2 weeks now. She just called me in her testimony. She said, I have to start writing down all of the miracles. Can you see me?
I can. That was an accident.
Okay. All right. Yeah. She said, I have to start writing down all of the miracles because so many things are happening in my life. And she's a hairdresser. Saturday, she was doing someone's hair. She said, do you understand? I haven't done anybody's hair in 7 months. I just get up, take my kids to school, and I just go back to the bed. Take the drugs because I can't sleep at night. My mind is just always awake and worried. I'm frustrated, upset. But this woman has a powerful calling on her life. And within 2 weeks, she's already helping people. She's changing the lives of people around her. She's teaching them what I've taught her. And it is to just serve, because you never know where Spirit will put you and who Spirit will put in your path to serve. I had no idea. I thought I was helping a friend because I needed money or funds to open up for me. And I didn't know it was going to be something so much bigger than anything I could have imagined. So.
Wow, that's awesome. It just, I'm sitting here thinking about how important it is for you to follow your purpose. We all have a purpose on this earth. God has put us here for a reason. And when we follow our purpose and we go after our goals and our dreams and we just focus on that, everything else comes together. Dealing with some things that I've dealt with in the past, it's been really hard to focus because I'm focusing on what happened yesterday or a few years ago rather than focusing on what's going to happen or focusing on the here and now. But now that I learned how to put my focus on the here and now. I mean, things are just coming together. And it's almost scary, but it's a good scary type feeling, because right. I've never really had anything like this before, because I'm just the type of person I dwell on things that happened yesterday. I don't like people to be mad at me. I don't like to be mad at people, even though sometimes I am. But I don't like the feeling because it puts me in another place. But if you just focus and you go where God wants you to go, then things around you will definitely happen, which, like you said, you had to do that. Maybe you were short on funds because you had to be short on funds
Right.
because you were supposed to be there.
Yes.
And instead of us questioning or getting upset saying, well, I just don't understand why, some people missed the point, but you got it. And that's where your blessings come in. That's where your increase come in, because you're sowing into somebody else's life, which is something that is definitely needed. And we have to serve other people, and people have to understand that it's not about us. That's not what it's about. There's people that need whatever it is that God has put us on this earth, whatever our purpose is, somebody needs it.
You're absolutely right. And you know, every day I'm realizing that more and more, that my journey, even the painful parts, wasn't about me. It's not something that I'd say, oh, I want to go through again. But you know what? I wouldn't change it for anything, because when you come out on the other side, I always tell people to be willing to walk through the darkness into the light, because you don't want to stay in the darkness. There's no hope there. But if you understand that this is just part of the process, right? And you're heading towards a destination, then there's hope, there's progress, there's expansion, right? This is not the end of the road. And that's what kept me going. But I understand, just like you said, it really, truly was not about me. Yesterday, she told me she doesn't live in a nice part of the city. And she told me she walked outside and she saw a lady hanging onto a fence next door to her. She said she must have been strung out on heroin or something, some very bad drug. And she looked at her and she went back inside. She cleaned her house for about an hour. She came back out. The lady was still hanging there. And she said, you know what? I went to her and I told her, she's like, sis, I don't want anybody to hurt you. But God loves you right where you are, even in this condition. And that lady was in no condition to even speak. And she said she saw a tear roll down her cheek. And she said, you know, it's about to storm. I want to bring you up onto my porch so that, you know, that you're safe and you're out of that. So she brought her up there for a while, and she's looking at her and she said, I think I know you. What she told me was that she had actually met this woman about 4 or 5, I don't remember how many years before. She had met her, and she had met her in a store. They had spoken. The lady had a job, a beautiful home, a nice car, was doing well, and had told her that she used to be on drugs. And my friend complimented her on her sweater, and the lady gave her her sweater. And as she's looking at her, she's like, I know you. I know you. She's like, do you remember me? And as she began to come to herself, the lady remembered. And she said, you know, she began to tell her everything that I had told her. She began to share with this lady. And she said, you know what, there is another way, and I'm willing to help you. She took her back to her shelter. She came back home with almost no gas in her car. And she praying through a storm that she'd make it home. But then she called me today to say, you know, I had no gas, but today I went out to a store with a neighbor, and the neighbor told me right outside the store, she said, look down at your feet. She's like, is that money? And when she looked down, there was money. She thought it was $20. And she said, well, what if someone here lost it? So they waited around to see if anybody came back to look for the money. No one did. They got in the car, and she began to open the $20 bill, or what she thought it was. It was $140.
Wow.
Right? And so she's just like, oh my God, everything that you have told me, because she was raised in church. So some of the things I was telling her, she was questioning, like, is this biblical, or, you know, whatever. But she began to just get confirmation from all around her. She said she had a Joyce Meyer's, I don't know, DVD or CD or something that she had never opened. And she put it in for some reason after she had spoken to me. Everything that I had told her, she's like, Joyce Myers was talking about and giving biblical references. So whatever, like, she needed to ease her, you know, to give her peace of mind, she was receiving. And she said, there is nothing anybody can tell me that would say to me that what you're teaching me is wrong. She said, because nobody knows what I was crying out to God for. And I was crying out. And she said, when I cry out like that, things happen. She said, but you showed up, and not only did you show up, but you came and you sat with me and you listened, and you have no idea what it's done. I have a little idea because I keep hearing her stories about how she's helping so many people just in this short frame of time. And I'm sitting here absolutely stunned because every week I encourage people to serve others, because that will open up their own path. Even if you can't see your vision, it will begin to open for you as you serve others. But I'm watching somebody literally wake up. It's like watching somebody wake up from the dead. And I'm absolutely astounded at the results for someone who has had addictions from 14 to 44. To see her wake up and start to take control of her life is amazing. And her vision is to create a home, a house for the lost and found.
Wow.
So now she's working on creating the house for the lost and found.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. And again, because you were there, now what you did just affected so many other lives, literally. I mean, you went to that one person, and that one person has been able to help several people and even more people to come. So that's awesome. I want to ask you, because we're running short on time, but I want to talk a little bit about the Reiki Master. Yes, let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, well, Reiki is just a natural form of healing and relaxation. And so people often you can lay on a massage table, and it's very gentle. You can treat yourself, and it's literally just placing your hands, or a practitioner placing their hands on you on different parts of your body. And it's a very simple, gentle process, but it relaxes you deeply. So people have different experiences. Everybody's experience is unique to them. Some experience deep relaxation. For some people, I remember I was in Trinidad and I was actually presenting to the second largest funeral home to their employees there. And there was one guy that was skeptical. He said all of these spiritual things, he didn't believe in them. And I said, okay, but then I did a demonstration, and he volunteered for the demonstration. And this has to be spirit. This wasn't me. But within like 2 minutes of him laying there, he was snoring. And so I didn't think anything of it. I tried to wake him up, and he wouldn't wake up. So I had to like really shake him to get him up. And then the audience was laughing. But then when he spoke, he told us, he said, I've had a lot of stress, and I've had this crick in my neck, this thing, and I haven't even been able to hold my neck up straight for 2 weeks. I've been to the doctors. I've tried everything, and it hasn't worked. And then he started to move his head around, and he said, but it's gone. And so really it's not magic or anything, but it's, sometimes we're so busy and we get so caught up in life, and we feel like we can't just stop and take the time. And so our body will literally stop us. And his body just needed space to just be. I didn't do anything. So it's that the healing is natural. You're just quiet and you give the body space to heal itself. And so it's really relaxing, and I teach it. I don't really know, but I am able to teach it because my work has just gone in a different direction. So I will do it if I see people really, really need it, but I'm not doing it so much anymore. But it's a wonderful form of deep relaxation. People gain mental clarity. People that are sick and on medicine often can have their medicine reduced because their body is able to function better.
Wow. Oh, well, that's awesome. That is definitely awesome. Okay, well, before I let you go, I want you to leave something with the audience, and then also give them the information of how they can get in contact with you.
Oh, okay. Sure. Well, you can inbox me at facebook.com/passionately serving others.
Okay.
And that's it for now. I'm actually launching my website within a few weeks. So, okay. But they can reach out to me on Facebook.
Okay. And did you want to leave the audience with anything, any food for thought or anything
You
like
know,
that?
what you said, you talk about, and I say this all the time on my calls, like who you are matters, excuse me, who you are matters and makes a difference in this world. And oftentimes we can be so overwhelmed by our problems and our challenges and don't understand that we actually have the power to direct our mind if we get still. So I teach people how to just shift. If you find yourself stuck in the past or worrying about the future, whenever you do that, be gentle with yourself, because we beat up on ourselves so much. And in that moment that you recognize that you're in that place, just shift your attention to the present moment. You know, I say, place your hand on your heart, take a breath, just breathe, and know that even though your mind took a trip, you're okay, and nothing outside it has changed, right? And
Right.
that's a practice, it's a discipline and practice. And when you begin to do that, what happens, you begin to build a bridge of power between who you are as spirit and your intellect. Because oftentimes, you know, we get messages, but we don't follow it because what we see outside of us looks frightening to us. It looks scary. We're scared to take that risk. And we don't see, we can't hear our guidance for all the noise in our head. And so I teach people to just be gentle with themselves and begin to just shift into the present moment and serve. Because when you serve, you never know. You might you might be saving somebody's life. You don't know if they can go one more minute, one more hour, one more day. That lady, she said, I need something now because I can't imagine going on. I can't go on like this. Like something has to change, and something has to change now.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're
And thank
welcome.
you so much for being on my show.
You're welcome. Thank you, Carmen.
You're welcome. And I just wanted to kind of piggyback just a little bit from what Carlenia said. We do have to learn how to serve others. I know I'm very busy, and her and I talked about that a couple of times, how busy I am, but I do have downtime. I have time where I just sit down. I may watch TV. I may just lay down on my bed because I have to regroup. I'm not not the type of person to get in my car and listen to a bunch of music all the time, because sometimes that's just my time just to think, my time just to relax before I go somewhere. But I do try to find time for myself. And one thing people know about me is that I am a server. I love to serve others. I love to help. Sometimes I probably help a little too much. I don't know if there's a such thing, but sometimes I do need to slow down. And there's times that I have, because I realize I have too much on my plate. But take care of you, take care of your mind, because when you take care of you, you can help other people more effectively, because now you can think and you can focus. So I hope you enjoyed the show. For those that are watching and those that are going to be watching, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. For more, you can keep following me and subscribe to me on YouTube under For Sale by Comma. And also you can follow me on Facebook, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, all under Kama Speaks, Kama Speaks. And other than that, I believe that is it. I also just, for those that are watching, I have a Blog Talk Radio under Kama Speaks. So that's blogtalkradio.com/Kama Speaks. And I speak on domestic violence. So make sure you check that out under Blog Talk Radio. For those that are watching, continue to watch. Continue to go after your dreams and go after your goals. Never give up, because you have what someone else needs. I know it may seem hard. I know it may seem tough, but sometimes you have to go through the fire to be that testimony for someone else. All right. With that said, like I always say, and I always end, no matter what you do in life, always pursue your passion.